It's okay. It's okay. And good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to today's episode of the Law News and Laughter podcast. Hope you're all doing well, people. In the news today, we have the Australian Federal Police Counter-Terrorism Unit feeding a 13-year-old autistic boy's obsession with ISIS. Beyond that, we also have Stingy sent me through some updates on the Vince McMahon stuff. Appreciate that. And yeah, look, today will probably be a reasonably short one, peeps. I'm acutely aware that people got better places to be starting at 11 o'clock my time, so I'll just make my way through it. So, Tesla's also recalling a bunch of cars because apparently the warning lights are too small. Something about Syrian airstrikes, we may or may not get to that. Oh, and apparently some paramedics didn't even bother to get out of the ambulance where 3 people were dying on the street from cold exposure. I'm a little bit curious as to that one, and I want to look at that one a little bit more in depth. And a woman who may or may not have actually attended January 6th has now been arrested because they found her ID card on the floor or something. So the Vince stuff is possible NDAs WWE didn't know anything about, and possible federal investigation. Yeah, I saw. So anyway, let's get stuck into it, people. Welcome to today's episode of Law, News, and whatever. Yeah, I'm in that kind of mood. Alrighty, just very quickly, I'm going to move this across here, so we've got that, and I also need to open up the chat thing there, so we got that across there, that's there, and that's there. Alright. So, how Australian undercover police fed an autistic 13-year-old's fixation with Islamic State. A court has found that counter-terrorism units' conduct fell profoundly short of minimum standards expected of law enforcement officers. Counter-terrorism police encouraged an autistic 13-year-old boy in his fixation on Islamic State in an undercover operation after his parents sought help from the authorities. The boy, given the pseudonym Thomas Carrick, was later charged with terror offences after an undercover officer fed his fixation and doomed the rehabilitation efforts that Thomas and his parents had engaged in, a Victorian Children's Magistrates Court found. Thomas spent 3 months in custody before he was granted bail in October 22, after an earlier bail was revoked because he failed to comply with conditions. No, I don't need a hug. As bad as it sounds in my brain, I'm half trying to, force you guys away so I can give this up, but I also desperately want to cling on to it and, I don't know, it's really weird. There's a lot going on in my head right now. So I genuinely appreciate each and every one of you sitting here and being here through this with me. I appreciate it. Thomas, an NDIS recipient with an IQ of 71, was first reported to police by Victoria's Department of Health and Human Services, and then by his parents because of his fixation with Islamic State, which included him accessing extremist material online and making threats to other students. This kid's autistic and 13, and they... Yeah, okay. Alright. On 17 April 2021, his parents went to a police station and asked for help because Thomas was watching Islamic State-related videos on his computer and had asked his mother to buy bomb-making ingredients such as sulfur and acetone. Acetone, not acetane. Thomas was investigated and charged with 2 terror offences by the Joint Counter-Terrorism Team, which comprises of Australian Federal Police, the Victorian Police and ASIO members. The court granted a permanent stay on the charges in October last year, but a copy of the decision has only recently been published. The community would not expect law enforcement officers to encourage a 13 to 14-year-old child towards racial hatred, distrust of police, and violent extremism, encouraging the child's fixation on ISIS. Sent you a photo, you laugh, you lose. Alright, let's see what you got for me. Oh, dude. Guess you lose on that one. Where are we? The community would not expect law enforcement to use the guise of rehabilitation service to entice the parents of a troubled child to engage in a process that results in potential harm to that child. The conduct engaged by the Joint Community Task Force, the Joint Counter-Terrorism Team, and the AFP fall so profoundly short of the minimum standards expected of law enforcement officials that to refuse this stay of application would condone and encourage further instances of such conduct. Fleming found that the team also deliberately delayed charging Thomas with offences until after he turned 14, as it made it harder for him to use the defensive Dolly Incapacax. Oh, for fuck's sake. Incapacax. Dolly Incapacax. Why can I not... No motivation, I just got... Or out of jail this morning? Or jail? You got jail? The moment after months of going to the gym, you notice your shoulders are noticeably bigger, and obviously you work out, unlike certain always late and gay lawyers. You just got out of jail? Jason, what did you do now? What? How? Why? Why were you in jail? Come on, we're stopping the show until you tell me. Just don't admit to any crimes on the internet. Like herding cats sometimes. Conduct engaged by the team and the FP falls so profoundly short to encourage such other instances. Fleming found that the team also deliberately delayed the charge. Oh, I just read that. Police also inappropriately searched his property shortly before the charge Fleming found. There was a deliberate, invasive, and totally inappropriate search of his bedroom without lawful excuse. The search involved multiple Victoria Police members under the guise of attending to provide support to the family within the countering violent extremism framework. The conduct of law enforcement officers involved subterfuge. Fleming also noted that English was not the first language of Thomas's parents. Found his parents who noted that English was not his parents' first language. Found his father told police he was prepared to sacrifice my son for the safety of the Australian community. I'm guessing by now you can probably hear the sound of my eyes blinking at this. What the... Confronted the cops about the Milwaukee cop beating a 7-year-old girl for not taking a nap, and I confronted one of the cops I haven't had contact with. Sorry, I can't have contact with. I can neither condone nor give you a pat on the back for that. Officially. How much was the bail? See if we can go fund you for it. There was no evidence that the AFP took any action in relation to the DHHS complaint, Fleming found. An online persona which later communicated with Thomas was activated a day earlier. After Thomas's parents spoke to Victoria Police, Fleming found a decision was made by the force to manage Thomas therapeutically. 5,000 in cash. Okay. His parents provided Victorian police access to Thomas, their home, his phone, his mother's phone, and to personal information about his school and psychologist. Less than a month after Victoria police started working with Thomas, a case manager was told by the psychologist who was working with them that Thomas's verbalizations need to be considered within the context of his autism, his ASD, autism spectrum disorder, and possible cognitive impairment. One of the key diagnostic criteria for ASD is highly restricted fixated interests that are abnormal in intensity or focus. Suggested that ISIS represents a circumscribed interest, an intense, narrow, preoccupying interest that provides intense focus, social identity for him, a topic to be researched, as well as a topic of conversation that brings him attention. A police officer who performed a report based on the information downloaded from his phone found that he appeared to be fascinated with China and symbols of the Chinese Communist Party and that there were no religious images or versions of the Quran present. Wait. What? How are they saying that he's fixated on ISIS now if they're talking about maybe he's just fixated on making bad choices? Like... Victoria Police also arranged for an imam to meet regularly with Thomas to discuss Islam and answer any questions that he may have had. But 3 months after his parents went to the police, the Joint Counter-Terrorism Team started an operation targeting Thomas, codenamed Burglingster? What the hell is Burglingster? Free chat, woo, Aussie, got that, gawk gawk, why have I been here so long, is that bad? Let's see what else I can get in here, woo. Sounds like he's fixated on topics in the news. It kind of does, yeah. So 3 months after they contacted police, they created their own little task force to focus on a 13-year-old kid. Since when is having CCP imagery illegal? I don't believe that it is. Otherwise, there's a whole bunch of people here in Australia that should be arrested. Teenagers! I'm sorry, I had something stuck in my throat. Albanese. Anyway, moving on. It would run in parallel with the efforts to counter his violent extremism. An online covert operative was tasked with communicating with Thomas using two persona, a 24-year-old Muslim man from New South Wales and a more extreme person located overseas. The purpose of the operation was to find Thomas online and engage him in chat to ascertain if his intent, if any. The operative told the court the strategy was to gather intelligence and information that he could use to charge Thomas with terrorism offences. Hey, honey. Can't take my PC into AU and they can send the US Gestapo after me and extradite me to AU for having CCP memes. On the first occasion Thomas spoke with the operative online, he was asked the officer, "Are you a spy and do you work with the ASIO?" To which the operative in the role of the first persona responded, I hate these Killab dogs. This is why you don't trust anybody online. At all. Ever. You just don't. Hey, Daisy Jones. If the CTP can be used against friendly Geordies, why not a 13-year-old boy was trying to help? Yeah, well, there is that. I mean, I wasn't really going to talk about the friendly Geordie stuff because, frankly, I think he's a dick. I put Jordan up there with Elijah Schaefer. Some of the things they say are based. Most of the time, they act like a dick. Oh my god, Elijah Schaefer's Twitter, I swear to god, it's like every day. He posts 6 or 7 times. Half of those, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can agree with that. The other half, he's denigrating Australia. And I'm just like, if you hate it so much, why are you still here? Oh yeah, because you married a beautiful Australian woman. So you're happy to take out goods and services and products, but you just want to shit all over it. It's like, oh my god. I don't trust anyone in real life either. No, fair enough. Also, don't be like me. Make sure you're on live chat, not top chat. Sheriff's Department discovered 3 tasers that don't have an effect. Discovered that 3 tasers don't have an effect on me. Jesus, Jason. Paramount, hello. Dropping a Rumble chat. What's up, Aussie Overlord, for a fellow Rumbler? Appreciate it. Cheers. Okay, where was I? The operative then wrote, "Should I ask the same of you, Aki?" To which he replied, "I am 13 years old." The operative chatted with Thomas on 55 of the next 71 days, including during breaks at school and late at night. How is this not coercion? How is this not... More to the point, how is this not inappropriate? I mean... The operative told an operational psychologist who was expected to provide advice to him about how to communicate effectively online with Thomas that this kid is on the spectrum. I'm letting him do all the talking and just building a rapport. There were 1,400 pages of online chats between the pair. The first persona introduced Thomas to the second, more extreme persona, who encouraged him to make a bomb or kill an AFP member. Yeah, okay, fine. My enunciation of autistic is not great, okay? But the operative gave evidence that Thomas was naive and living in a fantasy life online, including by asking questions like whether he could join the kids section of Islamic State. What's the AFP? The Australian Federal Police. So this is an Australian. This is actually a member of the Australian Federal Police trying to incite a 13 to 14-year-old autistic kid to bomb or kill a member of the Federal Police to see whether or not he'd actually do it. If I just walked in now, I'd think you were talking about a story about the adult being under investigation, not the other way around. Yep. Where were the kids' parents? The kids' parents, basically from the sounds of it, don't know any better because they don't speak English well. They reached out to the police for help, and the police are doing this instead. On August 8, 2021, Thomas sent a photo to the operative which showed him wearing his school uniform, a hoodie and a face mask, holding a knife with ISIS written on it in marker. His house was searched within days, and he was charged less than 2 months later. Fleming found that the AFP assistant and deputy commissioners had been involved in authorising the operation, which resulted in Thomas being charged, and that the AFP was at all times aware of his age, his complex mental health issues, and his fixation on ISIS. A decision to arrest Thomas was authorised by an assistant commissioner after a detective superintendent failed to inform them that they had information the undercover operative was having a negative impact on therapeutically changing his behaviour. Yeah, see, 100% entrapment, but entrapment isn't illegal in AU as far as I know. No, it's not. Police can lie to you all the time. This is why you don't talk to the police. You say, I want to talk to my lawyer, and I'm not answering any questions until then. The bit that really fucks me off about this is there were two streams of interaction happening with this kid. On the one hand, they were allegedly providing therapeutic services to try and dissuade him. On the other hand, you had this dickhead operative acting with him on the way. You had this dickhead operative acting on a way to try and entice him into engaging with ISIS and to incite violence and potentially kill somebody. Like, oh no shit, another dude, appreciate it. That's whack, yo. If the bugs and stuff don't kill you in Australia, it seems the Australian government won't be too far behind, lol. Yeah, no, to be perfectly honest, the way that things are going, I don't... You know, it sounds so conspiracy theory and whack job and all that sort of stuff, but you just can't. It also... Oh, hang on, I forgot to do the... Thank you very much for that. If I ever have a spawn, we're going Amish. How big was the spider yesterday? I don't know, like that. Like it wasn't tiny, but it wasn't huge either. But no, with everything that they're bringing in, I mean, even between the disinformation bill, so that they control what we say online. At some point, I'm just gonna have to get a Starlink thing and go and float off in the middle of the ocean, just so that I can New Zealand and Australia is what happens when you let females in government. Or men that think they're female. But that wasn't a trans joke. I was making fun of that wasn't a trans joke. I was making fun of Anthony Albanese because he's so effeminate and he's such a fuckwit. I was just about to say, not that big to us would probably be gigantic by regular standards. Yeah, every government has done some sort of shittery like this. We just don't know exactly. Where are you? Fleming said the prospect of diverting and rehabilitating Thomas was always destined to fail once the operative started communicating with him, and the magistrate could not accept evidence given by police that these efforts had primacy over the criminal investigation. It is a nonsense to expect this court to accept that an effective rehabilitation process can be undertaken where there's a seasoned covert operative online engaging with him, encouraging his fixation, and that his rehabilitation team, his parents, and his psychologist are oblivious to the existence of the covert operative. The rehabilitation of TC was doomed once the operative connected online, befriended TC and fed his fixation, providing him with new terminology, new boundaries, and a new outlet for him to express what was in his fantasy world. Is the Patriot Act here in the US? I mean, look, this is messed up in all sorts of ways, shapes, and forms. Oh, dude. Another one? Holy crap. Glad to help a fellow Rambler. Can't do much, but I don't have much to make on here myself. Make more on here than I do on YouTube. Have a great one, Aussie. Thank you very much, Jeremy. I hugely appreciate it. And yeah, look, guys, go give a sub. You know, everyone's got to try and lift everybody else up here, rather than certain individuals who would rather, you know, grind us all into the ground. But you know, cheers. Thank you very much, and I genuinely appreciate it. Really want to move to America and really considering giving up my Australian citizenship so not bound by this country's anti-freedom laws. I've been thinking about it, Jaron, but the wife won't even entertain the idea. The prick of an officer needs to go to jail for that BS. Yeah, but nothing's going to happen because it was all officially sanctioned. Australian surveillance laws. Let's hear from those at the pointy end before the spies. I mean, the fact that they're even, like, allowed to do this when... The thing that's really fucking me off about this is the family went to these people for help. Like, that's the thing. These people went to the police for help. And this is what's happened. Rather than just try and dissuade the kid, rather than try and fix the problems, rather than assist with the fact that he has autism, like, it's just absolutely disgusting. Sanction needs to be those above it need prison also. Yeah. Would cost too much and Australians should fight for their country. If not, moving won't matter. It's a good point. Unfortunately, I do think that our country's been infiltrated by people that just cannot be bothered to fight for their own country, so I think that, I'm starting to think it's a lost cause anyway, unfortunately. Police really out there giving good got good reasons to hate them doesn't matter. Yep, pretty much. And you know what, while we're speaking on this sort of shit, let's move... Well, it's not really this sort of shit, but let's get the, like, twisted stuff out of the way. Convicted killers of British transgender teen Brianna Gay, named as Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe. These are the two that lured the transgender teen into a park and murdered her. The convicted killers of a transgender teenager in northwest England have been named in court after the judge in the case lifted a ban on reporting their identities. Warning, this story may contain details that may upset readers. I really didn't need to do that. Hang on, how do I... Oh, I need to take it off studio mode, that's why. Why is that not working? That should trigger off. Hang on. I don't understand why the trigger warning's not working. Hang on, give me 2 seconds. What do I need to go to? I need to go to trigger warning. There it is. There we go. Alright. And I need to go back to... let's go to new side by side. Let's actually do a transition here. Okay. Justice Amanda Yip lifted the restrictions on naming Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe, both 16, during a sentencing hearing at Manchester Crown Court on Friday. Jenkinson and Ratcliffe both face mandatory life sentences for the brutal murder of 16-year-old Brianna Gay. The judge was to decide later on Friday how long they would have to spend in prison before being eligible for parole. Brianna was stabbed with a hunting knife 28 times in her head, neck, chest and back in broad daylight after being lured to the park in the town of Warrington on February 11, 2023. She'd done absolutely nothing to them. Yeah, it's about 16 hours, depending on whether or not you're East or West Coast. They were just cleaning the knife when it accidentally went off. Jesus. Yeah, 28 times. The defendants denied killing Brianna and blamed each other for the fatal stabbing. It is not known which one or both wielded the knife. Neither have been in trouble with police before. Under English law, young offenders are generally granted the protection of restrictions that prevent them from being named until they turn 18. Jenkinson and Ratcliffe were previously known as Girl X and Boy Y, having been 15 at the time of killing. However, Justice Yip said that after they were found guilty, there was a strong public interest in the full and unrestricted reporting of what was plainly an exceptional case. Lawyers for the two argued that naming them would have ramifications for their welfare. They're facing mandatory life sentences and they're being found guilty. I don't think you need to worry about their ramifications for their welfare. Because one of two things is going to happen in prison. They're either going to meet a very short, quick end, or they're going to be hailed as heroes, depending on which prison they're put in. Neither of which I think is appropriate. But, I don't think that there's any sort of grounds for not naming them. In a statement to the court, Brownin's father, Peter Spooner, said being a father of a transgender child, she was previously known as Brett, had been a difficult thing to deal with, but he had been proud to gain another beautiful daughter. We were forming a new relationship, and these two murderers have stolen that from both of us. Bet if there was going to be a trial and you were to stream it, they would plea out. Well, I mean, they've already been found guilty, so it was never going to be streamed. Prosecutor Deanna Sorry, I've just got that song. What is it? Who, war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Don't ask. I have no idea. The prosecutor read a statement to the court from Brianna's mother, Esther Gay. Oh no shit, her name actually was Gay. She took her mother's name. In which she said the hardest thing to come to terms with was finding out that one of those charged with her murder was someone she thought was her daughter's friend. She said she had been pleased when Brianna sent a text message on February 11 saying she was going to meet a friend. I thought she would have a wonderful time hanging around with her friend and getting some fresh air, when all that time she was being lured to her death. All I can think about is that she would have been scared and I wasn't there for her. She needed me to protect her. She wasn't a fighter and she must have been so terrified. Jenkinson and Ratcliffe were found guilty by a jury in December following a 4-week trial at the Manchester Crown Court. Trial heard that the defendants were intelligent and had a fascination with violence, torture, and serial killers. They had planned the attack for weeks, detailed a handwritten plan and phone messages found by detectives. They had also discussed killing others, which prompted police early in the investigation to rule out transphobia as a motive behind Brianna's murder. I don't know that that's strictly true, because I remember when I was reading through reports on this earlier that they said that there was a specific reason why they targeted her. So now we're changing the narrative. DOA does the best version of war. Okay. Police believe that she was killed because she was vulnerable and accessible, with her death not a hate crime but for enjoyment and a thirst of killing. Well, there you go. Yes, I know it was a callback to the Fuki trial. For anyone that doesn't know, I got all excited. One of the last trials that I tried to do on my own, I got all excited because it was the Adrian Fuki trial, the one where he murdered it wasn't his girlfriend, it was a friend, and the mother tried to hide evidence, and it was going to be a really interesting case. And I stayed up all night doing research, and I prepped, and I was all ready. 5 minutes before the trial stream was due to start, he pleads out and pleads guilty, and the trial is cancelled. I've not had a good run with streaming trials. Aside from the fact that it's like first thing in the morning through till mid-morning for me, so it's really difficult to stream American trials, I just haven't had a good run with them. So, but anyway, I digress and I move on, as I always do. Alright. 2 C's in Italian, it's pronounced like K, so Fuki. We got triple X Tentacion instead. Exactly, I'm cursed! We hated that trial. You can't tell me that was enjoyable. That was some of the worst court audio ever. And the best part of that trial was watching his uncle leg it out of the car after he got shot. Paramedics never got out of the ambulance to look for a woman who froze to death after calling 911 following a fall. Paramedics with a private ambulance company in Milwaukee never stepped out of their vehicle to look for a woman who called 911 for help after she fell and struck her head while waiting for a bus in sub-zero temperatures, leaving the woman to die of hypothermia. The CEO of Curtis Ambulance is now defending the actions of his paramedics and said that they won't be disciplined. Wasn't as bad as the Border Patrol hooker trial, though. Oh, look, ZA and Brooks, yeah, they were good, but, I mean, that was when to be fair, that's when I was sharing trials with Vices, and, like, the Brooks trial really was an off-flow because Nick was doing it, and then he missed a couple of days, so everyone flowed over to Vices, and then because Vices and I tag teamed it, we actually did quite well off of that. So, I mean, the Brooks trial was fun. It's more just like I've said previously, the trial coverage is getting glutted. There's a lot of people now that are covering trials that, you know, it's up to them. Yes, John, I'm acutely aware that Vices is streaming in 10 minutes, so I fully expect half of you probably will disappear, so, but, you know, cheers. Enjoy. Defending the action, saying that they won't be disciplined. Officials say security video showed 49-year-old Jolene Waldroff slipped on the ice and struck her face on a gate while waiting for her bus after she finished work on January 15. She fell face first into the snow. She was able to call 911 for help, her call arriving at the dispatch center at 5:22 p.m. The paramedics from Curtis Ambulance Company were dispatched to respond to a call. They could not see her from their vehicle and left. About 20 minutes later, bystanders called 911 again after finding her unconscious in the snow. They stayed with her until paramedics from the Milwaukee Fire Department arrived at 5:52, responding to the second call. By that time, her heart had stopped. Paramedics were unable to revive her. During a press conference on Tuesday, Curtis Ambulance CEO James Baker defended the actions of his paramedics, who he said he responded to an intersection. Don't gotta make me feel bad about abandoning you. Civ, guys, I say this every single time, okay? Well, no, I haven't said it in a while, but I've said it from the start, I should say. If there's better things on, go for it. I'm already acutely aware at the moment I'm not doing interesting content, okay? I'm working on it. So hopefully at some point the content will be interesting enough for people to stay and to be entertained and to continue watching. I mean, there's 50 of you, I hugely appreciate that. All 4,000 Lord Tubers are doing crumbly right now. It's the only thing going on. Exactly. And just like, you know. Went to school with a chick whose last name was Cookie, pronounced Coochie. Oh, really? And they owned an Italian restaurant called Little Coochies. That's funny. What's up? Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Apologies for that. Where are we? Okay. Where did I get to? During a press conference on Tuesday, the Curtis Ambulance CEO James Baker defended the actions of his paramedics, who he said responded to an intersection on Milwaukee's north side 4 minutes after they received a low-priority call from dispatchers. He said that they were unable to locate Waldorf after driving through the intersection twice, looking at the bus stop on each of the on each of the intersection's corners. But the Curtis paramedics never got out of their vehicles to look for the woman. You can't check behind every snowbank. You can't check behind every walkway alley. You can do the best you can. You still have to get out of the freaking car. What, are you kidding me? Waldorf, whom a former neighbor described as a positive person who would go out of her way to help others, leaves behind 2 daughters aged 14 and 21. I hope they sue the hell out of that paramedics company. That's ridiculous. Baker said the paramedics were at the scene for around 7 minutes and also contacted dispatchers who called Waldorf twice but were unable to reach her. He says they believe they did their due diligence. They would have to get out of their car and they would have to check each of the 4 bus stops. There's 2 of them. Why would that be of an issue? Go in opposite directions. Takes all of 3 minutes. How bad? Like, was it snowing? Was it a blizzard? Was it... Your emergency services. Do your... The crew did the best they could looking for the patient. The patient was not upright. The patient was hidden by objects and not actually at the bus station. Milwaukee Fire Department Assistant Chief Joshua Parrish said the fire department found Waldorf behind snowbanks near the corner of the intersection. Parrish said the paramedics with the fire department were able to locate her quickly because bystanders waited with the woman until they got onto the scene and waved the ambulance down. Medical calls to Milwaukee's 911 system are split between the fire department's paramedics and services provided by 2 private ambulance companies, Curtis Ambulance and Bell Ambulance. Dispatchers triage calls and send ambulance crews based on the caller information. Parrish said the first call from Waldorf was a low-priority call. The prioritization of the call depends on what the caller says. Parrish declined to share the details of the call. A WPR reporter made a public records request for the audio of the 911 calls on Friday. We do rely on our ambulance partners to provide a service to the city and essentially for those baseline support calls that come into the system. The reality is that there is a lot of call volume, so we do need partners to be able to handle that volume. When asked by a reporter if Waldorf would still be alive if the Milwaukee Fire Department responded first, Parrish said there was no way of even beginning to speculate that. Thanks to Winnebago v. Gonzalez, they have no legal obligation to help or protect. Well, is that all emergency service, not just, like, police? I might have to look at that case. I got no idea. No clue. No fucking clue. Said he believed the EMS system worked as designed in this scenario. He said false alarms are common, especially at bus stops. He said that callers sometimes call for an ambulance to a bus stop and get on the bus if the bus comes before the ambulance does. To a certain extent, you can't do patient searches for 300 patients a day. Baker said the crew members, one who was with the company for 2 years and the other who had been there for 12 years, will not face any disciplinary action. Chair of the city's ambulance service board said it was mind-boggling that the paramedics didn't get out of their vehicle. You make the effort to drive all that way, why wouldn't you get out and drive around? What does it take to get out of your vehicle? Borowski said, though Curtis and Bell are good partners with the city, he believes the incident should be a learning experience for the companies. If this isn't a learning experience, then nothing is. The fire chief, Aaron Lipsky, called the death a horrible incident with a horrible outcome. The outcome is tremendous. The outcome is a tremendous pain for the family, and for that, I offer my deepest condolences. Milwaukee's known for helping off innocent people. A GoFundMe page for the daughters has received $17,000 as of the Monday morning. I'm going to have a look at this. My name is Shannon. I'm fundraising for Jolene's daughters, Kevina and Kalia. On Monday, 16 January, she passed away. She'd finished work and was waiting for the bus. She slipped on some ice and fell face forward into the snow. She tried calling 911, but the call was dropped. They called back, but she'd gone unconscious. She was found over an hour and a half later. She died of hypothermia. Her girls have a long road ahead of them. They're still reeling from their loss of their dad 6 months ago. Oh, fuck. The funds that are raised will be used to cover the cost of the funeral arrangements and things needed for the girls. Kevin, 21, will be taking guardianship over Kalia, 14. Kids have to grow up much too fast. Let's help make this transition a little less stressful for them. And get all the generous donations, warm thoughts, and prayers for the family. We appreciate everyone. Service is being held on February 16th. You don't know how to respond to this. How do you think I feel? I'm the host of the show and I don't know how to respond to this. I kind of feel like I want to tweet this out, but at the same time I feel like it'd be inappropriate. I also don't want to get a reputation for that either. But I mean, look, they've raised $22,000 for the kids. It's nowhere. It's not like it's going to be anywhere near enough to, you know. But holy crap. Okay. Arrest made after suspect shoots another man for using a woman's restroom at Redlands Park. Authorities are investigating a shooting that happened at a park in Redlands over the weekend, in which the male victim was confronted and shot after using the woman's restroom. The shooting happened at Sylvan Park, located at the 600 block of North University Street, at around 4 p.m, according to Redlands Police. Investigators say the scene unfolded when the victim tried to use the men's restroom, but turned around after saying it was busy. He instead went into the women's restroom, during which time 2 girls went in and quickly left, telling another person that he was inside. As soon as he walked out, he was confronted by the shooter, now identified as 33-year-old Rudy Daniel Vasquez, who fired one shot at the victim's knee and pistol-whipped him in the head. This one I don't know how to respond to. What's that? Because of 2020... 22, 23, all first responders in the US are public enemy number 1, including political persecution. First responders are a huge target. I used to be an adventurer like you, but then I took a bullet to the knee. That's ridiculous, said one mother who went to the park shortly after the incident. I think that's a little overreacting, you know. Unless you actually see him do something, then maybe, but still never resort to violence. Friends of the victim say the attack was completely unprovoked and that he usually hangs around the park with them and is well liked. Police say that Vasquez threw the gun out of his car window when they tried to pull him over. No shit, of course. He's been arrested and now faces an attempted murder charge for the incident. The victim, who remains unidentified, is reportedly in a stable condition.
Charges of attempted murder. KCAL's Nicole Comstock has the story.
I'm a freaking moron. I just realized that that's not picking up the audio because I'm not in StreamYard. I turned it off so that you wouldn't get double audio.
A violent attack inside a public bathroom in the Inland Empire. Redlands police say tonight a gunman shot a man for using the women's restroom.
And tonight that gunman is facing charges of attempted murder. KCAL's Nicole Comstock has the story.
There's a popular skate park close to this bathroom at Sylvan Park in Redlands, where early Saturday evening, a young man was shot and pistol whipped.
I think that's just beyond, crazy.
This mother says she was here with her son shortly after the shooting when she learned the shocking circumstances surrounding it. Redlands police say the victim was trying to use the men's restroom, but it was busy, so he went inside the women's restroom instead. And while he was in there, police say 2 girls came in, then left and told someone a man was in the women's restroom. When the victim left the restroom, police say a man confronted him.
Okay, so let's break this down. So quite obviously there's a few things, because Amazing Disgrace has really got it there. Do you really think he tried to use the men's room first? There would be witnesses as to whether or not he tried to use the men's room first, in my expectation. Particularly if the men's room is already full. Is it inappropriate for a man or a woman, for that matter? Let's flip both. Let's use it for both genders. If they urgently need to use the restroom, but the restroom is full, is it appropriate for them to use the opposite gender's restroom? Does it matter? I mean, obviously these are not unisex, but I mean, what would have been worse? Him going behind a tree and copping a charge for public, what do you call it? Public display? Like, on the other hand, I can understand the issue because if you've got two girls that have gone in and said, "Oh, there's a man in the toilet," this guy is obviously the shooter has obviously acted without any sort of evidence that anything untoward is happening. People don't hang out in park bathrooms, wait 10 seconds, and there's a spot. Well, depends how many people were taking a massive shit, I suppose. Also, you don't know the circumstances. Maybe there was 5 or 6 people in the line and he was really busting. In LA, it doesn't matter what gender you are, you're allowed in any bathroom. Okay, well, there you go.
Shooting him in his knee, and then hitting him in his head with the gun.
That's ridiculous. I think that's a little overreacting, you know. Unless actually seen him do something, then I maybe, but it's still never resort to violence.
We spoke with several people off camera who know the victim.
It wasn't appropriate for either way. It was not appropriate for him to take it into his own hands. Like I could, but again, it's emotionally charged, so I can understand. What? I hate flip flopping like this. I really do. Men can use the sink in a park bathroom and nobody would flinch. Maybe the sink was occupied.
They all told us he's a good young man who comes to the park often, and that the violent attack was completely unprovoked.
Like 6 months ago, there was a dude that was like creeping around the area.
But Isaiah Autry says he's seen other men creeping around the restrooms here, making women uncomfortable. And he and his friends even followed one of them to see what he was doing. So he wonders if the suspect mistakenly thought the victim was up to no good.
It's a protective thing. It's a crazy times to be in right now. So like,
Yeah, and look, and that's fair.
we want to protect all of our loved ones. So what we want to do is our instincts.
Police say the suspect, 33-year-old Rudy Daniel Vasquez, threw the gun out of his SUV window when police tried to pull him over. He has since been arrested, police say, for attempted murder. Redlands police officers who responded to the shooting gave the victim first aid right away, and we are told that he is now in stable condition. Reporting in Redlands, I'm Nicole Comstock, KCAL News.
And see, and because this raises some serious questions, because where does that whole protection of, like, how do I put this? It's very emotionally charged because of what the alternative would be. Excuse me. If he was a creeper, if he was a PDF, if he was doing something untoward, it's one of the most heinous crimes you can commit against children. Or women, or, depending on the age of any potential victims or anything like that. But at the same time, shooting him in the knee, come on. Like, no, just call the cops. I know that half the time they don't show up, but it's still better than, or, don't pull the fucking trigger! Hold him at gunpoint until appropriate. If he was, he'd be a perfect politician. Kansas City says it wants to move migrants there with $15,000 Choose Topeka campaign to lure border crossers to the Dem-led city to fill 7,000 jobs. Abbott, you know where to send the buses. Get on it. A small American city is so desperate for workers, it doesn't just want migrants to move there, it will pay them $15,000 to come. I'm gonna come. Cities like New York, Chicago, and Denver are struggling to care for more than 100,000 migrants that are being bused from Texas, as up to 10,000 cross the Mexico border every day. I thought I saw something that what Abbott and the Texas border was actually doing was having an effect, and now everyone's heading off to California and Arizona, which I think is great news. Look up Baton Rouge sheriff and his smiling mugshot for what he did to a child under 12. Oh my god, no thanks. But Topeka, the capital city of Kansas, wishes a few of those buses would come its way to join its growing Hispanic community that makes up 17% of the population. The city has an unemployment rate of just 2.9% compared to the national 3.7%, and 7,000 open jobs it can't fill the ranks of. It's about 175,000 locals. City officials launched the Choose Topeka program in 2019, offering up to $15,000 to make anyone moving from outside the Shawnee County with a cap of $300,000 a year. Why do we care about Mariah Carey's bum? Mother of 17 opens doors to the mega mansion where she raises her enormous family, showing off multiple kitchens, oh my god, no. Some people just need to learn to cross their legs. Topeka taxpayers fund half the incentive, and the employer puts up the rest. Last year, the city began targeting the migrants for the program as thousands surged over the border after its Hispanic population jumped about 25% in a decade. But there's a catch. Only newcomers with a job are eligible, so undocumented migrants without permission to work in the US can't apply. Oh, well, that sort of ruins that then. Has to be an issue if they can't pay people to come there. Professional victim that's made £35,000 out of more than 100 disability complaints, accused of making a career out of tribunals. I actually thought this was a little bit different. I'm a little bit bored with this. I'm going to move on. I'm not breaking anything. This is our house. Woman who claims that she was sucked into the Capitol on J6, then spent 40 minutes wandering around inside, has been arrested. Yeah, okay. A woman who allegedly roamed the Capitol on J6 for 40 minutes was caught on video by a Proud Boy live streamer and then spotted on Capitol surveillance footage making her way into multiple rooms, including hideaway offices of US senators, all while clutching a Coca-Cola bottle before she left to disrupt police overwhelmed outside, has been arrested. But Sandra Sandy Lee Hodges wanted the FBI to know during her interview with them last April that she was swallowed by the crowd and sucked into the building, a statement of facts reviewed on Thursday by Law and Crime shows. Hodges faces 4 criminal charges, including entering and remaining in a restricted building or grounds, disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building, disorderly conduct in the Capitol building, and parading, picketing, or demonstrating in the Capitol building. An arrest warrant was issued on January 26th in Hertford, North Carolina, and she was arrested on Thursday. All defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty, not when it comes to J6, we know this. Prosecutors say her keycard from the high-end Mandarin Oriental Hotel was found by a US Capitol police officer 3 days after the attack on the Capitol on the West Plaza near the Media Tower. After it was linked to Hodges, the FBI was notified. It was located 3 days after. I mean, it's sort of irrelevant because they've got her on camera from the streamer and the security camera and all that sort of stuff. Having that card, though, doesn't really prove anything, if you ask me. Not if you don't find it for 3 days later. Yeah, located, exactly. Hodges told the FBI during the interview at her home in April 23 that she headed to Washington, D.C. from North Carolina on January 5 after meeting a friend she met online a few days prior who lived in Virginia Beach. They checked into a hotel that she paid for and told investigators they planned to attend Donald Trump's speech. She fell asleep and woke up late, though, she said, and she left the hotel to seek out the president. She told the FBI she encountered a large group of people who told her the speech was over, and everyone was headed to the US Capitol building to protest. This was when she was sucked into the building. She claimed she was only inside briefly and had merely watched someone rip something off the wall before she realized that something was not right at that point and decided to leave. The FBI said their agents showed Hodges pictures from January 6 and she identified herself, including one of her taken inside the rooms prosecutors say she admitted to entering into over the course of her interview. Remember, if a security guard unlocks a door for you and allows you to enter the building, you're trespassing. See, okay, we have to break this down because the irony is because of a very specific technicality of law, you can be let into a premises and still be trespassing. It relates to the intent. Not that I'm saying that anyone on January 6 had any reason to be trespassing. I'm not saying that. What it comes down to is intent. So, for example, if a pipe breaks in my house and I call a plumber, and I let them into the house on the basis that, they're there to do the job, to do the plumbing, and they then go into my lounge room, kick their foot up on the couch, and sit and watch my TV, because they are there without the intended purpose for what I allowed them to be in the area for, they are then trespassing, whether I say you were trespassing or not. From the instant that from the moment that their intention deviates from the approved purpose for them entering the property, they are trespassing. Yeah, the intentions were assigned to them. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying there was any issues with their intentions. I'm not saying there was any issues with what happened with January 6th. I'm specifically saying that that's the little legal loophole that that the feds will probably try and argue. If we consider Congress as the House of the People, then we consider politicians were trespassing on that day, lol. Surveillance footage from the Capitol shows Hodges trawling the grounds and being close to the line of barricades defended by police of the Metropolitan Police Department. Chemical irritants were going off as police and rioters clashed, and she was in the area yelling out "Freedom!" toward the officers, prosecutors say. As she moved with the mob, prosecutors alleged that from her vantage point, Hodges was in a position to see violence between rioters and law enforcement. Specifically, she was in a position to see rioters wrestling over the barricades, and police security guard clearly knew what their intentions are. Lol, they were protesting. As far as I know, none of them were armed. No, and that... I was not specifically applying that scenario to January 6th. I'm saying that I can see that that's what they're going to try and argue. Dare the feds to prove that I may or may not have been near DC on J6, since they're now going after anyone that was in DC that week now. Yeah, I did see that. I saw that they're not just limiting it to those that were, present. Why did it matter whether or not she was seeing people wrestling over barricades or whatever? She's also accused of remaining in the West Plaza even as police lines collapsed. And your point is, what? You're going to charge her with loitering? As officers worked to restoring order, she moved up the Upper West Terrace, and she was seen on surveillance footage walking to the Senate side of the building near the Senate wing door. Rioters, the FBI said, had breached it a full 5 minutes before she walked in and then began disappearing into the crowd. Notably, while she was inside, the FBI said Hodges turned up in a video recorded by a Proud Boy and far-right live streamer, a name I cannot pronounce, known as Baked Alaska. I understood what you meant, no worries. Just saying it's a flimsy defense. Yeah, okay. While Hodges was inside a US Senator's hideaway office, footage from the streamer allegedly depicts her sitting on the sofa while they picked up a phone and started performatively saying, "Hello, US Senate, we have a fraudulent election I'd like to report. We need you to get our boy Donald Trump in office." How is any of that illegal? Like, I'm sorry, but how is any of that illegal? I'm yet to see an issue. They then called for the Vice President Mike Pence to get on the line. The only person Trump had falsely told them during the speech could change the outcome of the election certification. More videos showed Hodges banging on tables briefly as the crowd chanted and then made it out a window. The streamer the FBI said was heard telling people to break anything, and Hodges replied, "I'm not going to break anything. This is our house." So she's literally on camera recorded saying, "I'm not going to do anything." She also entered the crypt. There's an area of the... Wait, there's something called the crypt? Right, that's not creepy at all. According to surveillance footage, and we're seeing chanting, "Whose house? Our house!" as she clutched a Coca-Cola. By 3:32 p.m., and as police were trying to regain control of the entire building, footage shows her headed towards an exit as officers directed the crowd out. In total, the FBI says she spent more than approximately 40 minutes inside the building, but she didn't go immediately, heading to restricted grounds on the Capitol steps where she appeared to be yelling in the crowd further. It's unclear if she's retained an attorney, and no plea has yet been entered onto the docket in the District of Columbia. Okay. What's she actually been charged with, though? We've got an arrest warrant. Entering or remaining in a restricted building or grounds, disorderly and disruptive conduct, disorderly conducting the Capitol building, parading, picketing, and demonstrating in a Capitol building. Huh. Okay. It's not like you've got drug dealers, murderers, and serial killers to track down. Oh, wait, maybe they'll follow a page out of the book of the joint counter. What the hell was the name? The JCCT. Maybe they'll follow the Australian Federal Police and just try and incite somebody else to do something else. Holy crap. She was charged for being on the wrong side of the allowed political spectrum. It's only illegal if you have the incorrect political alignment. Oh, alright. Let's get to the Vince McMahon stuff. NDAs Vince McMahon signed behind the WWE's back may be worthless, say experts. I'm interested to see who these experts are, because depending on the terminology used in the NDAs, I would say that they wouldn't be worthless, because if it's an NDA between him and her, it depends whether or not he signed on behalf of the WWE. And if he has signed on behalf of the WWE, it's only the part as it applies to the WWE, which would be severed out and worthless. So I'd be very interested to see exactly what the wording is. Oh yes, thank you Streamlabs for reminding me. Thank you to everybody that so far that has hit the like and double check the subscribe buttons. Also, thank you to everybody that sent super chats. I'm not sure if the credit roll will show the Rumble rants, but I very much appreciate Daramuth, who has dropped $12 today. That's awesome. All right, where are we? NDA. Okay. The non-disclosure agreement at the center of the civil sex trafficking suit former WWE employee General Grant filed last week against the WWE company founder Vince McMahon and former executive John Laurinaitis has significant issues that could make it unenforceable, according to experts. Are these experts that got their law degrees out of a cereal packet, though? The issues are possibly academic in Grant's case, as in her lawsuit, she says that he didn't pay her all the hush money he agreed to pay her in exchange for signing the NDA, but was that as a result of her breaching the NDA, which would almost certainly make the contract void. In similar language, if similar language was used in NDAs, other people signed those, something a person familiar to the case says is a reasonable inference, they may be able to set aside other agreements. Experts, people who have taken part in the Night of the Long Knife. Such a development would be potentially catastrophic for the WWE and McMahon, who the Wall Street Journal reported today is at the center of a federal criminal sex trafficking investigation. Oh, that's that one. Okay. I don't think I can actually access the Wall Street Journal. No, I can't. That's fine. Further complicating the issue and potentially increasing McMahon's legal exposure is that according to a person familiar with the situation, yeah, Linda, you got to stop talking to the press. Would be my assumption based on this entire thing. Are the expert Redditards? Maybe. Maybe. Further complicating. Further complicating the issue, legal exposure. McMahon secretly had the NDAs drafted and entered into them without the WWE's knowledge, which is why when the company became aware of the hush money payments, it had to issue revised earnings statements. As Vice News reported yesterday, Laurinaitis' lawyer, Edward Brennan, denies the allegations in Grant's suit, which included Grape, but asserts that his client, like Grant, is a victim who is acting under McMahon's coercive control. Oh, way to throw him under the bus. If half the allegations against Laurinaitis are true, he was involved in how much, debauchery and degeneracy, and no, he's going to throw McMahon under the bus to try and save his client's reputation. They're turning on each other. This would seemingly complicate potential avenues of criminal and civil defense for McMahon, who denied the allegations in Grant's suit and said, "I intend to vigorously defend myself against these baseless accusations." Brennan said, "We will go where the evidence leads." When asked if other WWE executives were involved or aware of what Grant's suit depicts as McMahon's trafficking scheme. I love this. Do you know something that we should know about McMahon's conduct in the WWE? Please contact reporters at Tim Marchman at Vice. That's hilarious. For extra security, download the Signal app to a non-work device and text us. According to the Journal, at least 4 women who had signed NDAs were named in a grand jury subpoena. Among the women named were a former WWE wrestler who said McMahon coerced her into giving him oral sex, and a former WWE employer who alleged the head of talent relations at the company at the time, John Laurinaitis, demoted her after she broke off an affair with him, both of whom the Journal previously reported to have agreed 7-figure settlements with NDAs attached. An NDA cannot be used as a shield to prevent a victim from bringing criminal charges or speaking to investigators. If these women or others desire to speak out in public or bring civil suits, though, it's not clear that an agreement like the one Grant signed would prevent that. Carrie Goldberg, a lawyer who represented the victims of Harvey Weinstein. Oh yeah, let's tie all this to Harvey Weinstein, because you know, called the document poorly drafted. Weinstein used NDAs to silence some of his victims for over 2 decades and hid some of the payments he made to him by having them come from his brother's bank account, allegedly. I have no idea if that's... I've never paid enough attention, so I'm saying allegedly. It may have been proven. I don't care. I'm saying allegedly because I don't personally know. Goldberg says that the central problem with the agreement is lack of specificity. Her analysis matches that of Grant's lawyers, who argue that in the suit that the NDA should be void because the language is too broad, that it could prevent her from listing WWE on her resume. I really hope they file the NDA. I really hope they file the NDA as an exhibit. I mean, they're going to have to, but I really hope it becomes publicly available. I will go through that thing with a fine-tooth comb. I'm really curious. The NDA makes references to confidentiality, but not definition about what to be confidential about. It's very vague. Usually there's super specific information about what to be confidential about. Not always. When asked about what they understand the agreement to actually cover, a spokesperson for TKO, the parent company of WWE and the UFC, declined to comment, citing ongoing litigation. Well, of course they're going to decline to comment. What are you, a reject? Oh, I almost said the bad word then. Goldberg noted other issues with the NDA, among them that the copy Grant filed with the federal court in Connecticut wasn't actually signed by McMahon in either his personal capacity or role as chair of the WWE. Normally, all parties would receive an executed copy of the contract, according to a source familiar with the matter, though the contract was in fact executed with McMahon secretly signing both on his behalf and that of the WWE, after seeking counsel for his longtime attorney, Jerry McDevitt. Wait, so does that mean that it actually has been filed? Is it available? Hang on. No, that's the complaint. I don't care about the complaint. Alright, so that's the case number. Alright, so that should come up there if I just put in World Wrestling Entertainment. Cases first. Can't tell if that's loading or not. It's searching. It is searching. Okay, in the meantime. Seeking counsel, long-term attorney, seeming confident. Neither retired McDevitt nor the firm he worked for, He worked for K&L Gates! Responded to questions about the apparent conflict of interest, whether McDevitt was paid by McMahon or the WWE. Jody Short, a professor of law at UC Law San Francisco, who studied NDAs, believes the agreement is invalid on its face, but that this in practice may not necessarily mean much. In my considered opinion, she wrote in an email to Vice News, that NDAs such as the one you sent me are unenforceable under common law contract doctrine, but there is very little case law squarely on point, and litigating such a case could expose an individual to enormous cost and litigation risk. That's why most people end up silenced by NDAs, even if technically they're not worth the paper they're written on. It's not just the paper, it's the paper backed by an extreme asymmetry in resources between the two parties. Goldberg agrees and points out that survivors don't owe debts to society. It may be that an NDA is worthless as a matter of legal theory, but proving that in court is potentially an arduous process without a certain outcome that could define a survivor by the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Okay, so that's the case there. Excellent. Do we have the NDA? Please have the NDA. Please have the NDA. Yes, we have the NDA! Oh, it's really short, too. That's what Grant said. Allegedly, we won't provide proof mainstream. We don't have mainstream funds, other. Yeah, well. Plus, Vince was CEO, to be honest, as he was the WWE. Yeah, well, I mean, and the other thing is, there's different ways that it works over here, probably compared to over there. Generally, like if it's I mean, obviously it's not a single director company, so that doesn't come into it. But I'll be interested to see. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Let's get ready to rumble. No, I'm not going to bother doing a rumble switch. I'm just saying, let's do it. Julie Roginski is a former Fox News Channel host who became one of the first to sue the station over sexual harassment and was and is herself bound to silence by what many would consider an overly broad NDA. She's co-founder of Lift Our Voices. She points out that any other issues aside, the NDA could be voided by legislation currently being considered in Connecticut, which would ban workplace NDAs potentially retroactively. No, nothing should ever be applied retroactively like that. That's just not appropriate. I'm hoping that Vince McMahon examples spurs the Connecticut legislature to do the right thing. Ultimately, her thoughts are with survivors who have found themselves in the incredibly psychologically lonely place of being unable to speak out. You can't, she said, confide in anybody, not your friends, not your family, not your priest, not even your rabbi, or your therapist. Well, no, never talk to your therapist. About what happened to you, so you can imagine what's become largely a psychologically damaging place to be. Alrighty. Okay. We have the NDA. We have the NDA. All 7 pages of it. Okay, confidential settlement agreement, general release, and covenant not to sue. This confidentiality settlement agreement, general release, and covenant not to sue. This agreement is made between and by Vincent K. McMahon and World Wrestling Entertainment Inc., its past, present, divisions, subsidiaries, predecessors, affiliations, and successors, and Janelle Grant. What year she signed the NDA? 2022. Whereas Grant has been employed by the WWE in various capacities since June 17, 2019, most recently as Director Operations of Talent Relations, whereas the parties here too have agreed to terminate her employment with the WWE on the basis of this confidential settlement agreement and to avoid any damage caused by public disclosure of private matters between Grant and McMahon. And now, therefore, and with the intent to be legally bound and in the consideration of mutual promises and covenants set forth herein, the parties agree as follows. Grant's consideration, representation, and warranties to McMahon and the WWE. Grant agrees, represents, and warrants that, as at the date of this agreement is signed, she will not disclose, discuss, or reveal any claims against or information about McMahon, her relationship with McMahon, WWE, or any employees or independent contractors of the WWE to third parties on social media, in any public forum, or to any member of the media. Okay. I can see why they're saying it's overly broad. Haven't specified the information. See, ordinarily an NDA like this, if I were to draft one, it'd be anywhere between 20, 30 pages, and like half of that would be definitions. So, Grant represents and warrants that she has not and will not disclose, discuss, or reveal the existence of this agreement, which is a standard term, any of the terms of this agreement, and the amounts paid to her to any third party on social media in any public forum, or to any member of the media provided. However, that Grant may disclose the amounts paid previously to her agreement to her attorney and tax advisors and accountants, so long as Grant obtains their prior commitment to maintain confidentiality of the information required to be kept confidential under this agreement. If Grant discloses the amounts paid to her tax advisors, accountants, and tax authorities, she shall at all times limit disclosure to the minimum amount required to effectuate the legitimate purpose of the interaction. Grant represents and acknowledges that any disclosure by Grant to the matters required herein to be kept confidential under this agreement will do irreparable harm to McMahon and to the WWE and would defeat their purpose in entering into this agreement. Grant further represents and agrees that any such disclosures by Grant will cause and result in the non-payment of monies otherwise due under this agreement, and Grant further promises to return to McMahon all monies paid to her by McMahon pursuant to the agreement prior to any such disclosure by Grant. Okay. Grant agrees that neither she nor anyone, including attorneys acting on her implicit or explicit request to serve as an agent, spokesperson, or representative of her, will make any disparaging remarks about McMahon and or the WWE to third parties on social media, in any public forum, or any member of the media. For the purposes of this paragraph, disparaging remarks shall mean any statements, actions, or insinuations that would tend to lessen the standing or reputation of a company or individual in the eyes of an ordinary citizen, or which would expose a company to an individual of embarrassment or scorn. Is she blonde? She must be a blonde dumb. She should have had her lawyer look over the NDA. JSDs, she did. That's why I think this is a little bit more likely to hold up. She had independent legal advice on this, that someone who walked her through it, someone who fought back, and then she basically turned around and said, no, I'm signing it as is. That's why I think this has got a little bit more standing than some people seem to think. Mind you, I am looking at this from an Australian perspective. I'll be perfectly honest. For the purpose of I mean, this would be a sufficiently defining paragraph to me. She can't say anything that would make any statements that would lessen the reputation of him or the company. Which is not a specifically, like, it's not particularly difficult to work that out. Except for any rights under this agreement or as otherwise stated herein, she agrees to release, remise, forever discharge, and by these presents does for herself, her heirs, executors, administrators, release, remise, and forever discharge McMahon, WWE, and the present, former, and future directors, officers, employees, agents, and representatives of WWE personally, and as its directors, officers, from any and all such action or actions, cause of action, sums of money, covenants, contracts, controversies, agreements, promises, damages, claims, and demands whatsoever in law or in equity that she had, may have had, now has, or that her executors, administrators can, shall, or may have had as a result of, or in connection with her employment with the relationship with the WWE, and the termination of that employment relationship, and or any and all matters involved in a relationship with McMahon, and or with other WWE personnel, and whether or not known or unknown, asserted or unasserted, suspected or unsuspected, which she may have had as a result of any act which occurred up to any time leading up to and including the date of her execution of this agreement. Forgive me for thinking loyally about this. McMahon was a fucking fuckwit over this. There should have been 2 separate NDAs. One for himself and one for WWE. It should not have been... it should not have been collated into this single document. He himself would have been far better protected because he was signing on his own behalf. I know he was purporting to act on behalf of the WWE, but it would have been significantly more robust in these circumstances. By signing this agreement, Grant acknowledges that she will have waived any right she may have had to pursuing or bringing a lawsuit or making any legal claims against McMahon and or the WWE, and or any of its directors, officers, employees, agents, or representatives. Grant agrees that she will not cause and has not caused to be filed any legal actions, administrative proceedings, arbitrations, or other causes of any nature whatsoever relating to McMahon or the WWE concerning matters of the scope of this agreement. That is where you would include an additional clause. If for any reason this section of this agreement is found to be unenforceable, she agrees to private arbitration. Because then it wouldn't be out. It wouldn't have been filed. It wouldn't have been public. Grant covenants and agrees that she will forever forbear from pursuing any legal proceedings except if necessary to enforce this agreement, and that she will not in any other way make any additional demand or claims against McMahon or the WWE. Grant agrees that she will not institute or be party to any lawsuits, either individually or as a class representative or member or against McMahon or the WWE as to matters at the date of this agreement. Grant knowingly and intentionally waives any rights to any additional recovery that might be sought on her behalf by any person, entity, or local, state, federal government, or agency hereof. McMahon and the WWE, individually and jointly, for and in consideration of the representations, warranties, and covenants, Grant contained herein, hereby release and forever discharge her heirs. Grant her heirs, executors, administrators, successors, and assigns from any and all disputes, cause of action, blah, blah, blah. From whatsoever, whether known or unknown, whether asserted or unasserted from the beginning of the day of the execution of the agreement, which McMahon or the WWE might have had. Parties hereto understand and agree that neither this agreement or any of the terms here are intended to be admission of liability of any kind. Upon execution of the agreement, Grant will resign from her employment at the WWE effective immediately. Upon consideration of this agreement by parties, McMahon will pay the sum of $1 million to Grant within 10 days of the execution of this agreement. Providing all confidentiality obligations of Grant under this agreement are complied with in the ensuing years, McMahon will pay the following sums to Grant within 10 days of the dates listed. So there's $500,000 for the next 4 years, so that's another $2 million. And so presumably he missed the 2023 payment. Now he's just missed the 2024 payment. Yeah, because today's the 3rd here, so it'll be the 2nd in America. In the event of any disclosure by Grant in the matters required to be kept confidential under this agreement, McMahon shall have no obligation to make any payments set forth above, which would otherwise become due on the dates indicated, and all monies previously paid to Grant pursuant to this agreement shall be returned to McMahon in accordance with the terms of this agreement. That's where you're going to try... I'll be interested to see what the defense files. I'll be specifically expecting them to say that, oh no, she did something where there was a disclosure, and therefore they just hadn't instituted proceedings to recover the preceding funds that she'd been paid. I would, if I was McMahon's lawyers, I'd be instituting a counterclaim. Because one of two things is here. Either the agreement stands and she's done something, or the agreement stands and he has to pay her money, or the agreement doesn't stand at all and she's received benefit in equity and he should be entitled to claim that back from her. So she's either going to have to get her checkbook out. This will be really interesting. This is going to be interesting. Because admittedly, I might be talking I may be talking out my ass here because I don't know the intricacies of the American law that applies to this. Here, this would be very interesting because this is a contract dispute. Either the contract is void ab initio from the beginning, in which case she received funds in consideration for nothing and he's entitled to their return, or part of the agreement is in effect. Has chat died and am I just talking to myself or what? Anyway. All money paid to Grant pursuant to this agreement shall not be subject to any tax withholdings. Grant is solely responsible for the proper tax treatment of the payments and for all payments of all taxes. Penalties and interest due as a result of any and all payments pursuant to this agreement. Grant understands and agrees that the representations, warranties, and obligations of confidentiality contained in Section 1 of this agreement continue in perpetuity, and even after all payments due under this agreement are made in full. Grant reaffirms that she recognizes the substantial damages which would be done to McMahon and the WWE in the event of any disclosure. To the matter she's obligated to keep confidential. Accordingly, Grant both agrees, both as a contractual promise and as liquidated damages, to return all monies paid to Grant under this agreement if and when any disclosure of the matters required to be kept confidential is made. McMahon agrees to this agreement, and it binds him and his estate in the event of his death, including the obligation to pay Grant in consideration set forth for Section 5, provided Grant has complied with her obligation set forth in this agreement. Additional consideration: in the event that she desires a recommendation from the WWE to possible future employers, she can identify John Laurinaitis as a reference, and the WWE agrees to provide a positive evaluation and recommendation to any such possible employer of Grant. If he's no longer employed at the WWE at the time that she needs a reference, she can contact either legal counsel for McMahon and the WWE identified below, or McMahon to ascertain the name of the WWE employee to provide the reference. Undergrub, hello. In America, Vince did was called a Cleveland steamer on her. If that was in Australia, would it be a Wollongong dong? Grant represents that she is able to read the language and understand the meaning and effect of this agreement. She hereby represents she has read and understands the agreement to the effect that her attorney, Jonathan Shapiro, has explained it to her. Grant acknowledges that, so that is what we call the independent legal advice clause. Grant acknowledges that among the rights she is knowingly and voluntarily waiving by executing this agreement is the right to bring or pursue claims, cause of action against McMahon or the WWE. Confidentiality. Should Grant receive notice or become aware that disclosure of confidential information under this agreement is sought from her or her agents by way of subpoena, discovery request, court order, agency action, or otherwise, she will give McMahon and the WWE prompt within 2 days. Notice to attempt to obtain such disclosure, with the notice directed to Kane or Gates. Or the notice can be sent to any person so designated by McMahon or WWE or Mr. McDevitt or his law partners at the time during the pendency of this agreement. Grant shall cooperate with McMahon and the WWE to prevent the disclosure being sought, to limit the scope and use of the confidential information that is sought, or to put the appropriate protections in place to maintain its confidentiality to the extent legally permissible. Parties agree that this constitutes the full and complete understanding between the parties. Oh, arbitration. Hello. Why would you not have included that up further? In the event of any dispute arising out of this agreement, its construction, interpretation, application, performance, or breach, the parties agree to first attempt to resolve such disputes informally, and prior to taking any formal legal action to resolve such disputes. In the event that such dispute cannot be resolved informally, all parties here to agree the sole and exclusive legal method to resolve any and all disputes is binding arbitration under the Federal Arbitration Act, pursuant to the procedures of the American Arbitration Association, and to do so by sealed proceedings, which preserve the confidential and private nature of this agreement. Parties agree to discuss the venue for such arbitration proceeding. This agreement was made in and shall be governed by and construed by the laws of the state of Connecticut in existence at the time of this agreement, entered into regardless of whether the application of the choice of law rules would mandate the application of another state's laws to any dispute arising under the agreement. Look, it's short. It doesn't include anywhere near the definitions that I personally would have included. It's wholly, but I would expect that this would still be able to stand. The only trouble is that I understand that there is legislation that specifically is against this. They really, yeah, the vagueness of the definition of confidential information. I mean, they've explained specifically what should be withheld, what shouldn't be mentioned, what should be whatever, but it's not in a properly defined format. So I can see why people are making the argument this would be held unenforceable for vagueness. But at the same time, if that's the case, then I'd be fully expecting him to sue her for the money that it was paid over. So we'll certainly see how this plays out. I think this is very interesting. It's certainly something that's very public, something that's very well, it's going to be very enticing. And for the best part about it is, it's something that's not Trump related. That's going to be interesting and in the news. So there you go. But anyway, oh, all right, peeps. I'm going to get out of here. I will shunt everyone across devices. Go and make some noise and whatever. I may or may not do a stream later on today, just because I really want to freaking finish this thing. Like I did the members stream. Well, I did a stream that I turned into a members stream, trying to finish it. I've still got to put all the weapons in the backpack and everything together. I basically just want time to sit and mull things over, so I'll probably do that later. But where are we? There we go. That's saved. Biggest twist I found was Johnny Ace's lawyer trying to take the victim's side. Yeah. So, it's a bold strategy. But anyway. Shit, where are we? How have I lost my camera? There it is. Alright. As always, peeps, please remember, you are not a piece of shit. You have value and you do contribute to society, and thank you to everybody that's hit the like button. And, as always, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise, people. And I will catch you on the flip side. Cheers, guys.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.